Welcome to the Channeling Spirit Virtual Summit, a platform where we have invited Spirit to share messages, healings, and transmissions with all of us. May this energetic experience help us to expand our awareness and to deepen the relationship we have with our higher self, our spiritual team, and with Source, however we define them. Thank you for being here and for taking part in this amazing journey. Hello and welcome back to the Channeling Spirit Virtual Summit. My name is Daniel Martinez Stahl. We are in season 6. This is day 3, episode 8, with Elaina Cochran. I was introduced to her through a mutual friend, and we had a wonderful conversation. So I'm excited to see where today goes. It's always exciting to bring new blood into the mix, bring a new energy. And so thank you for being with us, Elaine. Elaina, sorry. I will let you introduce yourself and then we will go from there.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. As Daniel said, my name's Elaina. I call myself an intuitive energy healer, primarily because I pull from my toolkit, and so I didn't know what else to call myself, honestly. I work with my guides. I work with energy through feeling it in my body, getting messages in various form. And I've been on an awakening journey for about 14 years. And so I like to tell people that I've just been following my magic, following the magic, following my yeses. So even if it didn't make any sense, or even if I didn't understand why I was doing something, I would just follow that pull, and that would lead to another, and that would lead to another. And here I am doing this work. So it's an adventure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, there's an echo. Give me a second, see if I can find someone unmuted. I can't seem. Claudia, can you mute yourself? I can't seem to mute you for some reason. Okay. So given that we are in a platform that is referring to channeling spirit, what does that mean for you? What does that mean to you? What's your journey with your connection with your own spirit team, and what can you share about that with people that are learning about connecting with their own spirit team?
Absolutely. For me, channeling spirit is coming into alignment. So I like to say this world that we're all here because we have an interest in that pull too. As aspects of source, as aspects of consciousness, universe, God, whatever your particular language is, we already are that. You know, we are fractals of source energy, meaning we contain the whole within our individual. And for me, the journey, the understanding, the remembering has been about connecting that internal wholeness that is there from the time we're here until the time we leave. When we connect to that, when we start to peel the layers off, meaning the stories, the programming, the experiences that created perceptions of density, we come into greater alignment, which is something that has been there the entire time. So as we clear those things away, our internal guidance system becomes louder, more clear. And when I speak of alignment, we are able to tune in. So for me, being able to tune in to my guides has been a result of peeling the layers back. As I peel the layers back, I can heal. That was a interesting slip. As I peel back, I can hear more clearly. As I peel back, I can feel more palpably. So what that looks like is almost a map of sorts. So I just call them my guides, because my guides, I don't have a particular collective. I have an assortment. And I have them mapped in a way. So when I feel in my body certain sensations, I know who's here. For instance, my dad passed away April 24th unexpectedly, and he's now a guide. Every time he's here with me, I feel a warmth along my entire back. Okay, hi, Dad, I know you're here. Certain other ones, you know, it might be a tingling on the right side of my face or my third eye and my heart simultaneously. It might instantly activate. So it starts to become familiarizing that relationship. So it's all relationship. We're in relationship with our guides. We're in relationship with ourselves. We're in relationship with one another, with the earth. And in reference to communication with our guides, we're learning our relationship more deeply when we start to tune into, because we are here as humans, we are having a human experience intentionally. And so bringing our entire selves to the playground, right? So sometimes I feel, this is something I feel pretty strongly about, sometimes there can be a perception of hierarchy with humans being at the bottom. So, you know, small human, big spirits, better than small humans type of thing, right? In reality, when we're working in the field of oneness, which is the truth, there's no greater than or less than. There's frequency states, there's relationships that are formed. But honoring the human as with my students, I use the term instrument. We have this entire instrument available to us. So the more we hone it, the more we learn and develop, strengthen our ability to tune in, the more information we're able to receive, because it's there. It's broadcasting all the time. It's simultaneous. What we're really doing is peeling back those layers in order to be able to tune in.
I love that reminder and that invitation for us to let go of the perceptual hierarchy between ourselves and our spirit team. I am regularly reminded in different ways through different people that they are us and we are them, and that there's no distinction between us. And just so everybody knows, I've been meaning to say this in previous episodes. For those of you that don't know, I have bushes outside my window and birds come to join us by standing on the branches. And so if I'm looking out the window, it's because a bird caught my eye and I'm connecting with the bird and appreciating their presence in the energy. And so that's what I'm doing. So Sabrina saying, love what you said about there being no hierarchy. Yeah, it's really important. I mean, one of the things that I started playing with in my early days of learning to channel was this idea of connecting with the energy of all that is, becoming one with everything. And then from there, reconnecting with the essence of me as Daniel. And so it's, my awareness right now is in Daniel, and then I go up into the energy of all that is, which includes me. And from there, I'm able to connect with other energies that arguably are other aspects of me, depending on how one defines that.
Yeah, exactly.
to allow them to channel through me, as opposed to me channeling them. And so it's fun to kind of play with these relationships and these ideas, and they're all for our human benefit.
Yeah. I feel like I'm supposed to share a really powerful experience I had in 2020. You know, as I said, I've been on this journey actively, intentionally for 14 years. Really, it's been my entire life, but it's been 14 years that I've been very intentionally walking this. And until this journey, I had had this feeling that there was something I was supposed to find. And I just kept digging, you know. I would follow the yeses, follow the magic, follow the pulls, but there was something that was not satiated. And so that day I had a journey, and I was taken to oneness. And from that space, I saw, and this is my experience, you know, this is my experience, but I was taken to a space of completely pure white light and shown that white light, you know, contains all the colors. And I was shown how when white light fractalizes, it becomes the rainbow. So then that's what are our chakras? When you break it down, right? We're the rainbow. So fractals of the white light. And in that space, there were pulses. So if you can imagine white, but then almost like watercolor moving impressions of different colors. And in those different colors, it was light and frequency. And I was able to, there was communication going on without my voice, my mouth. It was telepathic. And in each of those colors, I saw consciousness, and I was shown how creation wanted to experience creation through itself. So we all fractalized into our own unique essences. And so from that fractalization, I saw this oneness consciousness, souls making agreements. There were states of consciousness that had agreed to become the plants. There were states of consciousness that had agreed to become other galaxies, other universes. This was beyond Earth, beyond our solar system. It was the big start. And there was consciousness that agreed to play human, play animals, plants, the whole, you know, name anything. But within that was the angelic realm. Within that was, you know, other celestial beings we consider guides. So it was big. You can even feel it right now. If you close your eyes and tune in, you can feel that frequency has come in. So some of you might be feeling it on your skin. Some of you might be feeling it in your heart, because there's a big remembrance when we touch that space. It might be bringing up emotion in some of you, because it's touching something that you've known beyond your human consciousness. And really, that's the beautiful thing about this is, you know, our minds are so powerful and necessary, but we're working in the state of beyond the mind. And that's why there's so much focus on heart-centeredness, because this is our I am. This is where the I am resides. So when we tune into this, we're bridging the linear aspect of what the mind wants to do. So we move into the space beyond judgment and beyond separation, into knowing. And then the more we ground the knowing into our human body, into our lives, our external world begins to shift, and therefore our planet begins to shift, because the collective shift comes through the individual.
Beautiful way of describing that. And thank you for sharing that experience. Again, reminder to anybody that's here with us live, feel free to raise your hand or put questions in the chat. This is an interactive conversation with you guys as well. So I don't know what energy is that I'm feeling. I tend to feel a lot in my neck. And when there's a lot of energy that my body hasn't yet learned to process easily, I get tightness in my neck.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been experiencing this a lot this season. But when you started speaking shortly after we introduced you, I started feeling, it was shortly after you said hello to your father, I started feeling a lot of tightness in my neck. And so I would like to say there's a lot of energy present and I can feel it, which I can't, but I can because I feel it in the back of my neck as tightness. I haven't
Yep.
quite yet gotten to a point where I can identify it. And so for any of you that are working with energy and you're learning to play with energy and feel energy, what I tend to do when I feel this tightness, because it's a tightness, it's a resistance of some sort, is I consciously allow the energy to flow through me down to Mother Earth. I allow the energy to flow through me up to Father Sky, and to create this constant flow of back and forth. And that movement softens the tightness. And that's what I do for me. Some people will say, Jamie Butler, who I refer to a lot, she was one of my teachers, talks about how if the energy starts feeling a bit too much for you, get some water, get something to eat. Chocolate, it's a great grounding process as well. And so it's important to understand, like Elaina talked about, our instrument, how it is that we receive, how it is that we perceive, how it is that we sense energy, and our relationship to it is really, really important. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to honor the body through the expansion because our body has to catch up. You know, because everything comes through the body, we have to hold grace when we're diving into these energies. You know, the nature of our world is energy moves into form, with physical being the slowest. And so when we're tapping into higher frequencies, we it can really be beneficial to honor the body. And when you feel like you need to pause, to integrate, to rest, I've had a lot of experiences through my own evolution of tapping into something big and then, whew, okay, I need to rest. Absolutely. Kitty says, remember laughter. Yeah, let's have fun. This is fun. You know, sometimes we can get really serious, like, oh, I'm focusing so much and I want to bring this magic in. Well, it's actually easier the more you laugh and have fun. I years ago finally, it took me a long time to realize that the more I played, the more money I make. Because that play state, that laughter state is high vibration. And so humans want to really lock in and get serious and make things that way, but actually we slow everything down. So that's part of the kind of reformation that's happening, the restructuring.
The connection into the truth of who we are. There's a lot of talk about joy and laughter, gratitude as being very high vibrational emotions, experiences. So laughter is an easy way to connect with your spirit team as well. And music as well.
Yeah.
I've been told music is a wonderful way to, again, soften the edges so that your team can communicate with you more easily. Carolyn, you want to unmute yourself?
Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, young lady. Just love the way that you, Daniel, that you mm, mm, um, uh, relate to the energy and how you take that into a deeper depth of understanding. And I just needed to just come on and say, "Oh my God, I love that." It's a deeper growth, and something I've been looking for. Beautiful, beautiful. That's it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I mean, I'm very transparent with my own journey and my process. Speaking of, Elaine mentioned something about being respectful of our expansion, and be careful what you wish for, in the sense that I was speaking with a friend of mine who went through a lot of ascension symptoms as he expanded. And I was like, I haven't had any of those. I want some of those. And no surprise, shortly thereafter, I started experiencing a lot of pain in my lower right hip, right near the back. and again, I feel the tightness and the discomfort, the tinge in the back of my right side. It's always my right side. When I'm feeling a lot of energy that my body is still learning how to process. And I connected with my body and I said, hey, what's this pain about in my lower right hip? And I was told, this is your ascension symptom. You asked for it.
You wanted one.
You wanted one. And so anyway, it's always interesting for me, these, our body will communicate with us beautifully. And, we were just talking in the last session about, we use pain almost disparagingly, but pain is a focus mechanism. It's a focus mechanism to remind us to connect more with the truth of who we are and to allow the truth of who we are more into our experience, to work as a signal or as a sign that our bodies are expanding, are enhancing, are upgrading, are purging. And so it's interesting to start playing with, oh, I'm feeling this. Interesting. My body is going through a transformation right now. How cool is that? Very different experience than, oh, I've got this pain in my hip. Oh, when's this gonna go away? It's a very different relationship with our body as it expands and grows. And of course, as always, if there is a discomfort in your body, please seek out medical assistance, because it's always important to make sure that that what you are experiencing isn't related to something else that might need more attention, different kind of attention. So just a little footnote there.
Do all the things.
Yeah. Caroline, your hand is still up. Do you want to add something else? Are you good?
I wasn't going to interrupt again, but what's coming through for me more since these retreat information is the okayness about feeling the body more and the relationship. It's about the relationship with the body and how that all expands, and it's it's just really nice to hear others talk about that. That's, and I'll put my hand down now.
Yeah, again, it goes back to that hierarchy. How sometimes it's almost been, again, like certain beings are greater than or less than, and it's really just consciousness and frequency. And so yeah, just really honoring the body and honoring that we all manifested these bodies to be here. We get to learn and experience through them, and that's such a powerful, that's the most powerful manifestation. It's bringing yourself into form. So, but Daniel, what you were talking about, I've experienced that as well. Like, as we tune into the guidance, the discernment develops to, oh, this is an ascension symptom versus something else. And I feel that leads really beautifully into the topic we chose for today, which is I don't remember verbatim what we chose, but it's navigating upheaval with ease, I believe, something to that effect. And
we'll go with that because it really doesn't make much of a
sounds
difference.
good.
Perfect.
But it feels, I'm just being guided to bring that forward more clearly. And because it does relate to so many states of reality that we experience. And so everyone on this call is aware that, you know, right now we're going through really deep upheaval and transformation on our planet. You can pick any number of things, right? There's so many things, it's overwhelming sometimes, but again, expansion, ascension happens through the individual. The individual is part of the tapestry of collective. So the importance of understanding everything that we do as individuals is contributing to the collective healing, is contributing to the collective expansion, the collective ascension, which ascension is here. Ascension is we're not going anywhere off planet. We're bringing this in. We're transforming here. And so I personally have had, I've been telling my friends that I feel like I've been in grad school since April, spiritual grad school. And I'm not sharing these stories for drama or sympathy. I'm sharing them for the purpose of the teaching in it, because this has been my teaching. My guides have been very clear every step of the way. And so, as I said, my father passed away unexpectedly April 24th. That was actually an incredibly beautiful experience. He showed me the process, and he immediately became a guide and started talking to me 5 minutes after he left. It was, yeah, it still brings me to tears. But then July 1st, my mother, they had been married 48 years. She had a stroke. I took her to the hospital and saw her flatline in front of me 3 times. Gratefully, she is miraculously healing. She's doing fantastic. That's why I'm here at her house, supporting her healing. So that was the first. On July 4th, my family, my husband and my children and I, our oldest dog passed away, which we knew was coming, but we didn't know exactly when. And then that evening, a neighbor's tree fell on our house, knocking all of our power off. The damage was to the extent that it just got turned on 2 days ago. So again, just facts, right? This is what happened. That was a lot. And what they showed me, my guides, has been so clear. So they gave me the image, and this relates to, you know, this is my story, but you know, everyone is experiencing their own version. So we have these levels of personal evolution and collective evolution, and those things are interwoven. But this was the teaching. So they showed me the energy of everything that had happened, like swirling. I'm a very visual person, so they show me a lot of visuals. So if you can imagine a swirling cloud of energy around me, and it's big, and there's a lot there. But then in the center, it's like a donut shape. So there's a clear space in the center. And they said, okay, see yourself there. And they showed me that within that space, as humans learning how to embrace our empowered selves, how we are here learning how to tap back into our divinity, our sovereignty, our co-creation abilities, that it's not about what's happening, it's about the story. So they said, what you are experiencing in part, you know, my mom didn't have a stroke, so I could learn this, but it's about navigating what happens, right? That's her story. I'm just a part of it as her daughter. But they showed me how in this chaos energy that exists, we don't become entangled in it until we begin assigning a story to it. So they were showing me, allow your emotions to come through. This isn't about bypassing. This isn't about diminishing the experience. This isn't about, you know, this is difficult, but I won't allow that. I'll just bulldoze through. It's not about that, because feeling in the moment is fluid. So when we allow ourselves to feel whatever it is, that's fluid, that's water element, that's flow. So we don't get stuck when we feel. That's how part of how we process. But when we assign a story that is negative, they showed me how immediately that starts to close down the energy, that starts to entangle. And basically, as co-creators, we're assigning our conscious creation into a heavy story. So using myself as an example, Daniel, I like to do that too, like very transparent. I can go through the grief. I can go through, okay, this is a lot at once. Allow it to flow through when I need to, but then what? I come back to center. Over. Sometimes I had to do it many times in one day. Okay. It was kind of overwhelming, all that hitting in 3 days. But when I come back to center and source within, that allows us to walk through the experience. And what that actually does, instead of entangling in negative story, which actually keeps you in that experience longer, this energy that is chaotic is still energy. So there's an alchemy that starts to happen when we don't attach story. So if I would have said, for me, this is the worst thing, everything's awful, right? Or whatever, you understand. I would have been choosing a certain story, and essentially I'm attaching an anchor of energy that's heavy through the experience versus allowing the flow of feeling, of releasing, coming back to anchoring into source. So when we do that, what that actually does is it creates a space, a clean space, a neutral space. So that's energy that we can now assign to the direction that we want to go. Does that make sense? So the alchemy is not, attaching that this is the worst thing. And admittedly, this has been the hardest period since April. It's not been easy. And what also happens is simultaneously, it's been one of the most expansive. So those things can sit next to one another. Like that's part of life. That's part of the navigation of life, is being able to hold the grief and the joy. But when we allow ourselves to do it cleanly, we're staying in our sovereignty and we are moving through something versus stagnating. And so then we have more available energy. So they were showing me the alchemy of not assigning a negative story actually becomes a force in which you can use. So we are able to start aligning, feeling, generating that from within, aligning it with that clear vision of where we're going, and it becomes very powerful. So it's almost a birthing process. So my guide showed me that in terms of myself, but then they said, and now look at the planet. So see where people are assigning stories around one another, and you'll start to notice and feel how that begins to close things down. And so it's important we don't then assign judgment to that, because that is an entanglement. But what we can do is hold a different frequency. And that is what's happening on our planet. More people are anchoring into higher frequencies, which have always been here. But as the layers peel, we are able to tap in and hold them. We're talking about body. My guides showed me to go on a cleanse because they said you're grounding in more light. So your body needs support to ground in more light. But each one of us, as we ground in more light, again, we are attributing a different energy to the collective. And also when more light starts to come in, what happens? Illumination. So when you turn on a light in a dusty room, you start to see the dust. But there's light on it now. So now we can clean it. So on a planetary level, that's what happens when we start to bring in higher vibration and we start to bring in connection to more light. We see what needs light. And then it becomes an individual choice of how much am I going to anchor into my light in this moment.
That's really beautiful. I like that description. Through a number of different conversations that I've had, again, different ways in which people talk about the change that we're going through, is this idea of transmuting the energy that exists into what we're becoming. And I once asked Spirit in a conversation, how does one do that? Because if we are individually transmuting the energy of the world, how do we do that? And the simple answer they gave was simply having a different perspective on it is already changing it.
Yeah. Not attaching to the story of the planet needs healing. Because then what frequency are we holding? Or even another individual? Because we're all here to evolve on our own pace, our own timeline. So it's kind of staying in our own lane, not assuming what another person needs or what their evolution looks like. But we can feel the energies. If we hold our vision of the earth in brokenness, how does that feel? Is that what we want? No. So let's use our sovereign consciousness to start aligning with the frequencies of a healing world. Two very different energetic spaces.
And even of a healed world.
Exactly.
And
Even
so
better.
we're each at our own level of acceptance into what we believe is possible. And again, this is, a similar topic that we've talked about all season, is the things that we pay attention to, the things that we give importance to and meaning to, is what shapes our experience. Now, like Elaina said, we're all on our own individual path. And this is a path that has been chosen for us by us, not us individually, Daniel, but us being my higher self and my soul have chosen how quickly or how slowly I am advancing into the truth of who I am, for whatever the number of reasons that they are. And it's really easy for me to get into judgment of, I'm not doing it fast enough, I'm not doing it deep enough, I'm not doing it enough. And that's part of my journey, is to allow and to find that forgiveness of self and that grace of self-love, to find it for myself, not because Elaina tells me it's important, but because I find it within myself. That's part of my journey. Now, there's something that I want to bring up, and it's going to sort of move us a little bit. So Elaina, feel free to bring us back to where you want to go to, but I do want to bring this up because of something that was said earlier, and I want to clarify something here. When we think about big, powerful energies that our bodies are trying to learn how to process and integrate with, and this comes up a lot in channeling, when we're about to channel an archangel or Yeshua or, these big, powerful energies, what I am learning more and more is that it's not about the power of the energy, but it's about the frequency of the energy.
Absolutely.
Now, we have our own frequency and we have our own vibrational signature that aligns more easily with others. I've been able to channel Yeshua from the beginning easily without any effect on my body. Whereas other things or other energies give me a lot of tension in the back of my neck because the vibration there isn't as easy of a match. And so, again, for people that are learning to channel or interested in channeling or even connect with channeled messages where you are feeling that the team of Elaina that is here, or you're beginning to feel the team, the collective that supports this program at the energetic level, it's enormous. And so if you're able to begin to feel that, there's a vibrational match within the process that aligns with your human beautifully, and there's other vibrational matches that are a little bit more difficult and challenging to connect with. That doesn't mean that one is more powerful than the other. It just means that it's a different frequency. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because of that hierarchy. I want to live my life knowing that I'm the energy of all that is, and that there isn't a being that is more powerful than me, because there isn't. And so when we start to again play with the language of hierarchy and power and less than or more than or greater than or weaker than, or it's not about that kind of a conversation. Our bodies do need to adjust to different frequencies. And for me, that's all it is. It's just an adjustment to a different frequency that it's not that familiar with.
Yep.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I think that's beautiful. It truly is like you're dialing into a different station, And also within that is the falling away of some collective patterns of, old stories around being able to tune in and what that looks like. And, and it has to be difficult, or there is like this power that, and really is about tuning into the nuances and the subtleties, and then the subtleties become more palpable and more present, and they grow, and our availability of connecting with them. So I love that you clarified that. I also love that you just used frequency so much, because I just started a class for a group of people on Tuesday, and it's called Frequency, and my guides gave it to me. They wrote in gold letters in meditation frequency across my mind's eye, and they said, here's your course, Elaina. So that word just keeps popping up and everywhere. So it's just making me smile.
I love that. I love that. Carolyn, do you want to unmute yourself? Oh, you're already unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have. Elaina, I wanted to come back to holding both the energies of grief and joy at the same time. And one of the previous speakers a couple of days ago talked about when channeling, to be able to focus in one area but be aware of other things, energies. Where my adult daughter passed away unexpectedly, and the grief was so overwhelming. But then coming through this journey and learning to find joy again is just an interesting experience of today, of listening to you and seeing grief and joy on the same spectrum, but not grasping them, to be aware of them, but not having to grasp them, but you still feel the pain of it all. And I haven't thought of it from that broader perspective before. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. What I've really learned is exactly that. And you even spoke to it just now, in the sense that you alluded to flow. And that really is what it's about, because when we are in our aligned center, that means we are present. And that, again, coming back to the body, to be present. We have to be in our bodies, allow these things to come through us. Even with the channeling, to be in our most empowered state with it, we have to be here. Otherwise, we're going to get ungrounded and not be very effective. We might have these really powerful experiences, but then be kind of floaty. So it all comes through the body. But in terms of grief and joy and those being on the spectrum, the same spectrum, that's absolutely it. You know, as I said, my father's passing 2 hours before, and again, he passed away from a massive heart attack. There was no warning. He was here, he was gone. And 2 hours before he passed away, I felt called to go meditate. I went and meditated in my attic, and suddenly I didn't go up with any specific intention. I just went up to meditate, and I ended up having this experience where literally I felt the air around me shift. I felt the energy on my skin differently. One of my cats was sitting next to me. It was undeniable that we were connected. My plants in front of me, literally, it almost felt like I was sitting in a mist. And it was the strongest experience of unconditional love that I've ever felt. And it was undeniable message of God is everything. And that's the word I'm using. Maybe it's spirit, maybe it's universe, but it was an embodied experience of that truth. And then 2 hours later, he passed away. So what he showed me was his soul was preparing me. He didn't, his human didn't know, but his soul did. And his soul gifted me that experience. Now, this has been one of the most profound teachings of my life, is my dad's passing. There's still human Elaina that misses going to coffee with him. So he's a guide with me, and it's incredible, and it's expansive, and it's loving and nurturing. And I wasn't ready for him to physically not be here anymore. So there's the spectrum. And so it is about an allowance moment to moment. What we are doing here ultimately is learning to follow energy, to be in flow. When we give ourselves permission to be in flow, to be present, to be here moment to moment, what that might look like is, right now I am feeling grief. I allow my grief. I honor my grief. It needs to move through me. And then once it does for this time, I recenter and I connect back into my heart. I open back up. So it becomes this natural flow state, which is the truth of who we are. We're remembering how we're designed to be. And human experience is the totality.
I'd like to add something to this, if I may. Grief is the reflection of love.
100%.
Grief is a subset of love in a very direct way. What is on offer, as far as I am concerned, and this is my interpretation, is that we can allow ourselves to feel the experience of our humanity while simultaneously be connected to the oneness of who we are spiritually, so that we can experience the joy of being alive while feeling the sorrow and the grief of loss. And
Absolutely.
giving ourselves that permission is a huge opportunity for us to expand again into the truth of who we are, which is we are human first and foremost. When people say you are spirit first and human second, I disagree. Because if we were spirit first, we wouldn't be human. We are human first. spirit second. However, and again, this is what I'm going to talk about at the end of the show, being human is spiritual. Being human is a spiritual experience. And so when we look at things like grief as an example of, you know, the loss of a physical friend, of a divine playmate that we were sharing space with, and all of a sudden they're no longer there, our human goes into a lot of loss. And there's a transitional period where the human needs to go through to get comfortable with, okay, now we're in a different relationship. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to be okay with, and I'm never going to miss the companionship of my mother or my father or my husband or my wife or my child. But our human does need to go through that transitional period of getting to a point where it's okay with the fact that the relationship is now different.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful articulation. And I've held this time as seeing grief as an exchange. Because I experienced that love, I have an exchange of grief now. And it's a beautiful price, I guess. And, you know, taking it, piggybacking on what you said, Daniel, it's, we can even move into a space of grief is on the spectrum of being a human. And so the beauty of being a human, you know, sometimes our human wants to only feel amazing all the time. And certainly the more we do this, truly our lives do change. My life is completely transformed from before. You know, I am very transparent, and, you know, I had major anxiety, major people pleasing, lots of scarcity, lots of fear to heal, you know, messy bag. And on the daily, I feel so much joy and so much beauty. Does that mean I don't have, you know, days where I get frustrated or anything, you know, on that human spectrum? Of course not, because I am here doing those things. But but that is part of the human experience. And so when we allow ourselves to feel it, and when we don't attach the story, we can move through it. Those things can heal. And then we begin to access different spaces. And so those frequency states of more lasting joy, this is how I've been shown, and this has been my personal experience as well. Those higher vibrational states last longer. Whereas, you know, when we start out and we're really in the thick of things, whatever our unique programming or stories are, they tend to come around more often, right? Because when we're really anchored in, we've got lots of opportunities to feel fear or scarcity or whatever. But as we heal, as we open up in the way that we're discussing, those periods of joy and bliss and peace and trust, they extend. So it's not that nothing difficult ever happens again, but even through difficulty, we can learn that we can tap back in and move through it in a different way.
Kitty, are you okay if I say something and then bring you in? Thank you for your patience. A lot of people have this idea, and it's a misunderstanding. Again, my perspective, take everything I say with a grain of salt, always, always, always. My perspective is that people have a misunderstanding of the fifth dimension. That once they go into the fifth dimension, they're never going to feel third dimensional experiences again. I personally don't believe that is what it's going to mean. At one point, one of the energies that I tend to really align with said, we will eventually get to a point where we will stop calling it dimensional differences. The differences in fifth and third and fourth and sixth and second, and they're all for our human to have an understanding during the transitional period to understand where we were and where we are going. But where we are going is to a point where there is no distinction between them, and we flow easily from one to the other. What it means is that we have a different perspective when we experience the third dimensional emotions with a fifth dimensional understanding versus having a third dimensional experience with a third dimensional understanding. And so that's where I think we're going. And this is what I think is on offer. It's not about no longer experiencing what it means to be human with the ups and downs of humanity. It's about, okay, so let's play with that. Let's experience that, but let's experience it from a perspective that we know that we are God experiencing that, as opposed to, you know, small little tiny human that's meaningless and worthless, a small little tiny speck in the, you know, huge expanse of the universe having this experience. It's, oh, I am this huge expansive space of the universe having the experience through this beautiful human. Again, it's a different perspective that we're playing in. It's a different level of understanding.
And
Kitty,
through that understanding, then the experience of the human does shift.
Yeah. So we've talked about how part of what we are having a hard time letting go of is our definition of what it means to be human. Because we've grown up with, you know, for me, 52 years of stories and movies and references and parents and influences talking about this is what it means to be human. And we're now getting into a point where we're redefining that, because our human experience is evolving into something that is beyond anything we can even imagine. And
absolutely,
part of this letting go is this aspect of releasing the ideas and notions of what the limitations we've innocently imposed on what it means to be human, to a point where we can be human in an effortless, infinite possible space.
Yeah.
Kitty, are you, sorry, is it okay if I bring Kitty in before you say something, Elaina? Go ahead, say it. I'll bring Kitty afterwards.
Okay, I'll be quick, Kitty. So my guide showed me this, and it's part of our evolution. Even the brain is upgrading with us too, okay? So our energy bodies are upgrading our physical body, our brain. And so my guides gave me a very clear visual a few years ago, and they said it's time for humanity to ground into the heart. So there's so much talk about heart-centered living, as it's absolutely important in the way, but can you feel how actually grounding into the heart is a little different nuance? So when we're grounded, there's a strength there, there's a presence there, there's a stability. And so they said it's time for humanity to ground into the heart, because when we're grounded into the heart, it means we're present. When we're present in the heart, it means we're in choice point, because presence is choice point. And so they showed me, you know, one of the things, as everyone here is familiar with what I'm about to say, you know, we've lived in a very mental body dominant world. Okay. Logic has been kind of given precedence over all things, and that's unwinding. That's another layer of the collective healing. But they showed me, you know, our minds are here to assist the heart, to process and help the heart. But when we're grounded in the heart, we're connected to all things. We're connected to expansion. We're connected to all potentialities, where if we live in this mental dominant space first, they literally gave me the visual blinders, because the frequency spaces we're talking about goes beyond the mental understanding, because our brains are evolving to catch up as well. And so when we assign a story, or when we're allowing our minds to be in the driver's seat, we're basically closing off potentials. If we're only trusting what we can see or perceive, we're missing so much. So if we can continue to come back to the heart, to ground into the heart over and over, we're actually expanding into potentials and possibilities. Thank you for letting me say that. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't.
Kitty, you're on. And you're still muted. I don't know if you're talking. Okay. So where do we go from here?
So what I'm being shown to say is, where are we creating perceived gaps? So again, it can be anything. It can be deepening a relationship, expanding our ability to channel. It can be a career move, anything. So where are we allowing our mind to create a perceived gap between what we want and who we are? Because again, it's all energy, it's all frequency. So if we ground into the heart, if we tune in to our presence, then we can tap into those frequency spaces right here. So that space is timeless. That's in the space of no time. So we can really have a lot of fun with this. They've been bringing in a lot of information around this lately. When we, with our creation energy through our perception, assign this is going to be difficult, this is going to take this much time, this is going to be a difficult relationship to heal, we'll probably never connect, anything. Insert your own words. What are we doing with our creation energy? We're putting a gap in between what we actually want and the energy in which we're aligning. As soon as you said, where do we go? They were like, this. So we don't do that in judgment, it's observation. So we just start to strengthen our ability to observe. I'm going to ground into my presence. I'm going to ground into my heart from this place of awareness, from this place of connection. What do I want to move into? What do I want to experience? Is it more joy? Okay, now notice, is your mind saying, in order for me to feel more joy, I need to do this, this, and this? Or can you take a breath and ground, and can you bring joy into your heart right here without any story attached to what you have to do in order to feel it, earn it, know it, experience it? Can you just feel it right here in this moment? The more we allow ourselves to do that over and over, we are generating energy. And then truly, I've experienced this in my own life. What happens is there's almost moments of like terminal velocity, like we keep putting drops in the bucket and eventually the bucket just starts to overflow and it becomes a river, right? Sometimes it feels like nothing's happening. Sometimes it's like, man, my bucket feels so big and these drops feel so small, but you are never going back. You are always adding to. So it's a really beautiful thing when we move out of self-judgment and we just start to notice, oh, I'm assigning an expectation around this, which is essentially using my creator energy to say something is going to be hard or difficult, or it has to come in like this. When actually we're really in our creator energy, we're really in our sovereignty and our empowered self when we come back over and over and we anchor into the frequencies in which we want to experience. For my students, I use it, and my clients, I use it, the metaphor of exercise a lot, because it's like we're strengthening our muscles. The more we tune in, the more we do this, we start to shift our experience because our muscles are stronger. When I first started, I could not meditate without having guided meditations. Way too busy up here. And now meditation is like school. And everyone has this ability. And we can even feel the force, the potential, the energy that's generated by even tuning into that remembrance. And then when we feel into, okay, we're a group here tuning into the remembrance of this potency that we have access to, you can feel how the space is changing. So then we can feel how this can happen on a planetary level, and it is happening on a planetary level.
Meditation is a term that's used a lot in many spiritual conversations. And many people have an idea that meditation is sitting quietly in a room, cross-legged or in a lotus position. My knees have very little flexibility laterally, so for me to get into that position would be a lot of effort.
No, thank you.
And some discomfort, I'm sure. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is because, again, for people that are listening to this at different levels of your own process, it's about finding how do you connect with the space that is, however you want to define that. How do you connect with the energy of consciousness? How do you connect with the collective space that exists within you and around you? How do you connect with a space of presence, of void, of the space before creation, the space of nothingness from which everything is birthed? And some people do it through traditional meditation. Other people do it through listening to music. Other people do it through exercise. Other people do it through dance. Other people do it through art. Some people do it through their work. And so there's no one way to do this, but it is a process of being conscious of allowing yourself to actively connect with an energy that is greater than your perception of your human self, in whatever way that makes sense. So Kelly says here, once we achieve a certain level of consciousness, can we fall back into more dense levels, or are we just choosing those experiences at a new level of perspective? Insights, please.
So my experience and what my guides have shown me is that we evolve like this. So when we're first really in our more dense stories, our life can feel like this: big highs, big lows, very ridge, jagged, right? Up, down, up, down. But as we are refining, our experience begins to look like this. We are evolving, we are expanding, but those ebbs and flows become more fluid and more smooth. And so as we are evolving through, there can be those feelings of those experiences of kind of falling back. But again, you are not ever going back to where you were. Sometimes our evolution and our healing can feel and can be 10 steps forward, 4 steps back, 20 steps forward, 25 steps back. But within that, there is still progression. And again, there becomes this energy that is generated that eventually bumps you up. And then you're not dipping back down into those spaces because your frequency, there's been a state change. There's been perception change. So the process on the way can be a bit of a dance back and forth. But there does reach a point where it's like you're stepping through a new door. and you allow the door of the old to fall away.
One of the ways that I describe it is I like talking about how you're expanding beyond the edges of your understanding. And so if you imagine yourself, being this big, let me put down my crystal. If you imagine yourself being this big, and for those on the audio that aren't listening to the video, I apologize. You can imagine what I'm saying. If you imagine yourself being this big, and all of a sudden you have some awareness, some experience that allows you to expand a little bit further, this is new space for you. And you're like, oh, wait, I'm not comfortable here. I'm not familiar with this energy, and I'm not familiar with this experience yet. Let me kind of reverse a little bit. Let me go back a little bit to a point where I'm comfortable again. But you know that you've already expanded. And so there's this constant play between, again, playing within that edge, playing within that space. Now, somebody once said not too long ago that resistance is a beautiful gift that allows us to slow down and allow our human to catch up. And I love that description. I thought that was a beautiful way of looking at resistance, as opposed to looking at resistance as a bad thing or something that you need to work through. It's the resistance is there to help your human catch up, for you to slow down and say, oh, wow, that's big. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Let me back up a little bit. And so we have this feeling that we're going backwards because we're falling back into an old pattern, an old way of thinking. A lot of times when we expand into new experience of life, it challenges our old beliefs. And so the old beliefs are kind of coming up to the surface. Again, we look at what we're talking about with the world shifting. What Elaina beautifully described is when you add light to a dusty room, now you're able to see the dust that needs to be swept away and cleaned away and done something with. And so when you expand into a new awareness, all of a sudden, the beliefs that were holding you back become more obvious, become more visible, become more present. And all this is an opportunity for you to transmute that, to change that, to recycle that, to work through it, to quote unquote heal it. And I put the word heal in quotes because people have an idea that they need to heal. You're not broken. There's nothing that you need to heal. You're never broken. You are the energy of all that is. There's nothing that's broken. But we're playing with energies that create resistance of some form or another, and working through whatever modality we choose that we enjoy to allow us to give ourselves permission to let that go, to release that, to transmute that, to sever the cord, whatever language you want to use, will allow you to then step more fully into that new space of expansion that you went into. Whatever you have learned, you can never unlearn. What has become yours is yours forever. So you can never go backwards in this journey. There's only ever a forwards. There's only ever a greater expansion of. So hopefully that's helpful.
And it's also the resistance can be integration time, because we can have these spaces of expansion and then almost get a little bit afraid. Can I allow this much in? Can I open this much? And so sometimes the resistance can be, I need to pause and breathe and allow what's coming in to fully integrate. I agree with your perception on brokenness. That's why I say we're always here whole. And I just call it housekeeping. We have layers of housekeeping. It's like our wholeness, and then the dust we've collected, we just have to housekeep, and untangle those things. But it's always just to align back to our wholeness, which has been there and is always there. And it's about strengthening the relationship to the unknown, because again, we are softening those mental linear patterns of identification. This is, as long as I can see it, as long as I can envision it, as long as I can project it, then essentially I'm safe, right? There's a quality sometimes of feeling safe if we know what's coming. And when we're talking about being in energies as expansive as these, it also entails becoming comfortable with the unknown. Because there can be a negative connotation of the unknown when we're anchored into a pattern of, I have to know to be safe. That's just a pattern. So when we come into what is actually the frequency of the unknown, well, there's so much magic there. There's so much beauty there. But when that relationship is imbalanced, our linear minds can attach to the negative potentials in the unknown, when in reality, the unknown contains all potentials. So sometimes those spaces of resistance can be paused so that we can catch up, and so we can expand our relationship with that trust.
There's a couple comments in the chat that I want to read out because it speaks to the conversation that we're having. Kitty's talking about how she uses squares, or she talks about squares in astrology. Resistance is a safety valve to release steam, to pay attention, awareness. And squares are traditionally called blocks. And so it's another nice way of looking at, this idea of a block is just a square that you're using to, pay attention to your situation, pay attention with more awareness, and as a valve to release steam. And then Kelly says, curiosity is a great way to move through uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Which is beautiful as well.
Which brings us back to, they're two different energies, but curiosity and play, we can bring a playful curiosity, and then it could be fun.
So there's a topic that popped in my head a little while ago in conversation, and I ignored it. and it's come back a couple of times. We talk about how, we're working with the energy of creation and how we utilize our beliefs, our ideas, our stories, our meaning, how that then integrates with the energy of creation to then create our experience. And what we're stepping into is an understanding that true creation is when we allow ourselves to connect with that more expansive aspect of ourselves to create the world before we even know we need it. So true creation is an allowing as opposed to a doing. Hard for me. Really learning that one. I'm still learning that one. But sorry, Kitty. And I'm still learning that. And there's an aspect where, again, I point myself in these directions, and this is the way that I like to talk about things when I'm not speaking from a place of absolute knowing. There's a knowing within me that resonates with that aspect of who we are, where I know that that's the truth of what is available to us. And I'm pointing myself in that direction more and more, in this aspect of allowing myself to connect with the fluidity of life, so that life, the universe, source, my higher self, creates things for me based on my desires, and it happens before I even realize I need it. And people that start connecting with this aspect of themselves will regularly talk about synchronicities, coincidences, magic, things that just appeared out of nowhere before they even realized that this is what they were looking for. And so again, we're in a process of evolution away from how we were into recognizing that there's something beyond what we thought was possible for us. And like Yeshua loves to say all the time, you are that which you are becoming. You already are that which you are becoming. So Elaina.
Yes.
Before we get into how people can work with you and how they can connect with you and all of those wonderful things, what else would you like to talk about? What else would you like to share, if anything?
We feel. So my guides are just showing me that they're reminding me how at times my own experience through this unfolding was lonely, because patterns would start to shift. That might mean relationships started to change. That might mean feeling like I'm feeling different than the people around me, type of thing. And it's just a simple message coming through, but it's they're showing me how in those moments to breathe and connect into the light in your heart, and then use that light to tune into the other heart lights of the hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are also following the same pulls that you are, and trusting that the alignment happens physically the more you stay true. And so I don't know who needed that, but again, it's another way in which my life is completely shifted. Now my life is full of people who, I can speak freely about these things, and it's received beautifully. And so, yeah, that just came to share.
Beautiful reminder for all of us. And so if people resonate with your energy and they want to connect with you and work with you, what's the best way for that to happen?
My website is Elated Earth. That's a great way to connect with me. I'm also on Instagram. I go through periods of being on social media and not, so that's kind of an ebb and flow. But yeah, my website is Elated Earth. I do group classes. I do one-on-one sessions where we just really dive in deeply to what's coming up for you in this moment. So it can be a lot of clearing, opening, realigning. Really, each time is an adventure. So I can never say exactly what it will be. I can say it is what it needs to be for that time.
Beautiful. And again, however you're listening to this show, details of her website will be in the description. For those of you that are listening live, Elaina is offering a 50% discount for a private session. There's a description in the special invitation. There's a code to utilize for that on her page. And I believe I have the link to the offer itself as well as to her page. I do. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's $50 off a session. And yeah, if you go through Daniel's page, the discount code is there. So then when you schedule, you can just put that in and you'll get the discount. Can't hear you all of a sudden.
Sorry, I was muted. I didn't realize. What I have on the page is a 50% discount. Should I change that to $50 discount?
We'll go with it. We'll just go with it.
Okay. Sorry if I misunderstood.
Merry Christmas.
Sorry if I misunderstood and I misread the message. So again, if you connect with Elaina and you kind of want to play with her energy, reach out to her. As always, let her know that you're coming through here so that she knows she has a point of reference. I think Elaina brings up a really good point. When we are learning and exploring and challenging the perception of who we are, it's oftentimes really important to surround yourself with people that will support you in that. And oftentimes that requires changing who you're spending your time with. A bunch of us offer different communities to connect with and align to, courses that you can take with pretty much all of the speakers are offering different groups and classes where you can meet people that are exploring the same way. You can align with people in that way. I will regularly talk about how I have a membership that meets every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we have these kinds of discussions where we explore and expand together collectively. This is an invitation, by the way, Elaina, that I extend out to all of the speakers of CSVS, where they can come in to play and to join and to explore and, connect at that level as well. And so not all of the speakers have joined, some of them have. And so it's an open invitation for all the speakers as well to join. But it's really important that you connect with people that you align with. And as our awareness of experience changes, how we relate to the world also changes. And it becomes important to then make the necessary changes in our lives so that we're living the life that we want to live, not the life that we were told we were supposed to live or that we believed we had to live.
Absolutely. And even also honoring the current relationships, even if they feel like they're shifting, not assigning a story to it necessarily, and just, sometimes we do evolve together. And honoring that, as we shift, others around us have the opportunity to shift as well, not taking on their story or their change or their work, but simply just holding space for what their journey needs to be.
That's a beautiful point, a beautiful reminder as well. So, Elaina, thank you so much for coming to play with us. Really appreciate the time and looking forward to seeing you back again if you're willing to come and play again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, honor. So for those of you that are going to be with us in the next session, it is with Christy Slopemaker. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, which will be at the top of the hour. Again, information about that will be sent via email. If nothing else, Elaina, I feel like there's something else that wants to be said.
They're just saying honor yourself as the conduit through which expansion is materializing at this time on our planet.
Beautiful. Thank you. So with that, I will leave you with being spirit, being human, and simply being from love. And I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being part of this incredible experience. We hope that this session has inspired a new level of understanding within you, allowing you to expand more easily into the essence of your true self and become an even more powerful alchemist in your own life. We invite you to listen to the session again and again in order to go deeper each time and expand even more. Have it be via the replays or the unlimited access package. If you have enjoyed being part of this event, we invite you to tell your friends so that they can join us in the future. We are grateful that you are here, and we thank you for co-creating this experience with us. Until next time, we leave you with being spirit, being human, and simply being from love.